Hello, and welcome to another fun-filled episode of My Dog Will Eat My Face. I know it's been some time since I have released a podcast. It's been approximately a month, actually, so uh, mea culpa on me. I don't have any good excuse for that, except for I've been very, very tired. And that is something that my nurses and doctors have said that will happen to me as things progress. And I guess they weren't kidding because I'm sleeping about 18 to 20 hours a day now, which is just ridiculous. And so if I do have any energy to get up and do something, frankly, I'd much rather play with my dog or do something else than a podcast. No offense. So that's why I've been away. But I am still here. Yay, I guess. It's hard going, and that's something I kind of want to talk about today. I was discussing this particular matter that I'm about to share with my nurse very recently. How the prospect of, let's say, death and hospice care can be altered dramatically from person to person based on one, of course, the diagnosis, and two, something that's often not taken into account is age. So if you're someone like me who has terminal stage illnesses hit at and around the age of 40 and you're basically otherwise healthy, it doesn't really knock you down as quickly as it does if you're 90 and or 300 pounds. When things started, I was traveling every other week, working, and you might hear some squeaks in the background because my dog is playing. Do you want to say hi, little man? No, he's just staring at me like I did something terrible. Anyway, what was I on about? I think I finished. No, just kidding. But yeah, so it's very different for someone in my case where you're otherwise healthy. And that sounds like it's a good thing, but I'm not so sure. Because it's been a very long, arduous decline for me with heart failure. And it's it's been very difficult, needless to say. But with that in mind, I wanted to talk about those differences. And also, when I first got diagnosed with these terminal stages and was drop kicked into hospice care, one of the earliest podcasts I made is what it's like to be dying. And that's actually the most popular podcast I've ever released. It was like in my first week or something like that. I guess a lot of people want to know what it's like to be dying. And, it's different for everyone. So I'm going to talk about how it's been for me because it's now been a while. It's been years, frankly, since I've been told I'm dying. And since then, I think I have a more silver judgment of what it is like and wanted to share that. Since that is the most popular topic people apparently want to morbidly hear about, I think it's incumbent upon me to reprise that topic and address it after having experienced it now for several years. So, indeed, what is it like to be dying? As I said already, it obviously varies dramatically from person to person based on several factors. The problem I've encountered with Medicare hospice care is that it was first brought out and engineered around cancer and cancer care and cancer mortality, which is very predictable. My case is my case is a congenital issue that I was born with, and at the time when I was born, it was the first recorded case of this event in human history. I don't think it was the first in human history. I think it was just the first that doctors recorded it and decided to look into it, frankly. So, with that being said, my situation is going to be very different from a lot of others out there. So, I just want to preface it with that. Your death might be totally different. If you asked me, and I was asked actually when I was first put in a hospice, how would I like to die? What a weird question, right? I remember this. One of the very first meetings I had with hospice care was that question. They said, how do you want to die? And I said, I want to be in the back of an airplane or behind the cockpit, looking out the window and saying, should we be flying that close to the mountain? And then gone. That's how I want to go. I don't want a long, prolonged death. I just want poof, and it to be over with before I could even complete my sentence. But alas, that was not been my fate, certainly. So what I want has not happened. And I know it sounds like a peculiar thing to want because you get more life, but the universe is basically constantly trying to kill you and me. And when you have terminal conditions, it really can kick your butt. And it's not necessarily a pleasant experience to be alive, just putting it bluntly. When you're dealing with a natural environment, truly, that is constantly trying to kill you and eventually will. 100% chance you will die, as will I, just like everyone else who came before us. I'm reminded of the old saying, and I believe it's marked on a few gravestones and in the catacombs in Paris, where the epitaph reads, where I am now, you will one day be. Where you are now, I once was. Actually, I think it was the reverse. I think it was in the other order, but whatever. Where you are now, I once was. Where I am now, you will be. And it's very true. You'll see that on some old gravestones, maybe, but it's also written in at least I know the catacombs in Paris somewhere. If you go there, so it might be a familiar phrase to you or not. But anyway, you will all die. I'll die. It's just when you get these terminal diagnoses at like 39, which is when I got my real terminal diagnoses. I mean, I've had doctors say I was going to keel over since I was born. Literally. I was born with a congenital defect, protein C deficiency, which means I have blood clotting issues and that my blood vessels are prone to clotting and occluding, blocking the blood flow to certain areas of my body. The most prominent areas are the legs and the blood from the lungs to the heart, the oxygenated blood in the pulmonary arteries. And that's exactly what happened to me. I was born with no right pulmonary artery. So if you see one in a parking lot or an alleyway somewhere, it might be mine. Because I didn't have one when I was born. And they put in a Kevlar like artificial shunt, the very first one of its kind in me at the time. And they didn't even know that that was the case until they basically cracked me open and did that wonderful pry the rib cage open and then looked at it and said, "Oh my gosh, there's nothing there." And they haphazardly scrambled to put some, I don't know, MacGyver tape together and put in the fake pulmonary artery. Now, amazingly, it's still there. This surgery happened when I was, I think, one or just under one. And it is still there and working. Yay, but it's also an artery for a 1 year old and it's highly calcified and diminished in strength, but there's still blood flowing through it. The other area where I've had issues is I have no functioning femoral arteries in either leg. In one leg, there's no femoral artery at all. In the other, it is completely occluded and slowly being reabsorbed by the body. So that's what's happened to me. And over time, these occlusions just get worse. And then I get into pulmonary hypertension. I get severe pressure in my chest and lungs, which is what I do have now still. And then heart failure. And then the other organs start to fail. So now I'm in fatal heart and kidney failure, and my skin is dying, and my thorax is not getting enough blood flow. I'm on other organs. Yeah, it's pretty gross when you talk about it, frankly. I get a little grossed out when I talk about the human body, so you have to bear with me. I get a little icked out. I don't like biology. I'm fine with computers and machinery, but anyway. Yep, my dog's squeaking his toy in the background. I don't know if you can hear it. But anyway, so that's my problem. And I had basically what was a pulmonary embolism about, oh golly, a while ago. Like, I want to say 8 years ago, just maybe 7 years ago. And went to the hospital and lived, obviously, I think, unless this is hell. And lived through that. And that's when my cardiologist came in and said I should start making final preparations. Now, what did I do with that information? I just went back to work. I didn't know what to do with it. And so I kept working, kept doing my thing, and I lasted on that for a few more years, then until I got really, really sick. And I basically just couldn't keep working anymore. And he agreed, and he drop kicked me to hospice, saying, "Sorry, Chief, there's nothing more we can do for you. It is now beyond medical science." Have fun with that. That'll be $7,000. Anyway, um, that's what happened. And for me, the physical function of dying has been very slow as a result, because, like I said, before all this really hit, I was functioning like anyone else pretty much. I'm sure I walked a little slower. I couldn't carry heavy things. I did have some moments where I was gimped, for sure. But I was able to work, I was able to stand, I was able to walk, I was able to stand in a queue at Starbucks every morning, whatever. I mean, you would, if you saw me, you would never have thought, oh, he's got a heart condition. But I think actually that's pretty common. A lot of people just suddenly have a heart attack or a cardiac event, and they didn't know that there was anything going on until that moment. So, anyway, since I was relatively young when that happened, I wasn't 90 years old or overweight. It was by no fault of my own. I'm not overweight by any measure. The only thing I've ever heard from a doctor was that I was slightly underweight. But that was when I was a teenager, so I think most teenagers are kind of like that with that growth spurt in high school. Those lovely, awkward years, yes, where your dimensions are weird. So that's what my doctor told me. You're weird. Your dimensions are weird. You're too tall and lengthy, and you need to eat a sandwich, boy. Eat something. No. Anyway, I mean, he kind of basically did say that, but I regress. Uh, so it's been a very long, arduous process for me. At first, I was put on oxygen right away. I've had very strange events and episodes periodically, ranging from minor to severe. I pass out because my heart stops, literally, and comes back, and then I might come to. I actually got a left temporal lobe brain hemorrhage when I collapsed in my kitchen and knocked my head on the granite countertop. Hit without warning, and I just went down and woke up in a pool of blood and called 911. But yeah, so there's a lot of episodes that can range from minor. I fainted while I was just sitting in a chair. That's not that big of a deal. I come to a little bit later, and I see it as like I'm missing time. That literally happens to me occasionally, and that's been happening this whole duration, where I could be sitting there doing something, and then suddenly I realize that I'm not doing anything, and like my computer's turned off, let's say, and I look at the clock, and it's at like 20 minutes to an hour later. And I'm like, what the hell just happened? So that's something that's been really weird and has occurred. It's relatively minor of all the other things, but I do get missing time. And also with that, I get really bad memory. And that can be pretty severe. For example, about a year ago, I had a total blackout of 2 weeks. Not like I was drunk during it. I was functioning. I was talking to people. I was signing forms. I was texting. I was doing it, all my normal stuff. But I blacked out approximately 2 weeks entirely. And then after those 2 weeks, I didn't know who I was anymore, and I was found wandering around my apartment, completely confused where I was, who I was, and who anyone else was. And they put me in a nursing home. And then like on day one, I slowly started to come to, and I don't remember going to the nursing home. I don't remember how I got there. I don't remember anything for like 2.5 weeks. And that's the most severe case so far that I've had, these weird episodes. So I've fainting that can be minor to major. Like I said, I can faint while sitting in a chair, big whoop. I get missing time at most. It's not that big of a deal. Or I could get a brain hemorrhage, which has happened because I fainted or collapsed, whatever you want to call it, while just standing in my kitchen and knocked my head on the countertop and cracked my skull open and got a frontal left lobe brain hemorrhage. So it's been like that now for years. These fainting spells keep happening. They go from small to big. The biggest one was just a year ago, so they're getting worse, certainly. And also on top of that, because of the lack of blood flow, organs are starting to fail now more and more. I've talked about that. So because of the lack of blood flow that I have, my skin is failing. It starts like peeling and just dying and flaking off on me, or it gets spotty and red and hurts a little bit, and I have to like keep using steroid cream just to keep myself from basically mulching. That's what I tell people. I'm mulching. I'm losing my skin. Another problem is chronic hoarseness. Today's not so bad, thank goodness. But pretty much every day when I get up in the morning, I can't even talk for an hour or two. My voice is so hoarse and it's persistent every single day. And some days, again, are worse than others. And that's because of a lack of blood flow to my thorax. Great. So my skin's suffering, my thorax is suffering, and my kidneys are now also dying and suffering. So I go through hours upon hours or days even without urinating. And that can be very serious. So if I go just 3 or 4 days maybe without urinating all those toxins in me, that's it. I'd probably just fall asleep and die. And one of the things I asked the doctors when they said I had kidney failure is, I said, well, I can picture how somebody can die from, a rock hitting them on the head, okay? But how exactly do you die from kidney failure? What happens to you medically? What will I observe from my standpoint? They said, well, you'll just get more and more tired and sleepy, and you'll sleep more and more and more until you're sleeping all the time, and then you're unconscious, and then you just never wake up and die. And again, I don't know if you can hear my dog squeaking in the background. He's not squeaking, he's playing with squeaking toys. There you go. He's just having a ball. Um, so that's been my experience. As I said, I'm sleeping now about 18 to 20 hours a day, and it's just getting worse and worse. So that's really physically what it's like, I think, up to now. Just a kind of a reprise of what I've observed over the last several years, what it has been like to die slowly. Not dead yet, though, so there's more yet to come. More delightful issues to come. Yay. So, I guess that's my reanalysis of that particular topic. I forgot one other thing that I experience as I decline, because it happened immediately when I had to turn off the microphone from the last segment. I've been having coughing spasms periodically where I just feel like there's fluid in my lungs and I can't get it up. Basically, it's edema fluid, and edema is another big part of what I've been going through. The heart can't pump blood effectively, so the extremities get pools of fluid in it that is very painful for me. I ask other people to push it out, and it is extraordinarily painful. Trying to push all this fluid through these teeny blood vessels, it just hurts like hell. Um, and then also I get edema fluid in my lungs, and then it's just this thick, gooey crap that has a slight reddish, bloody hinge to it. But you cough it up. I know I'm being gross, sorry, but I'm just saying the reality of it. Anyway, when I stopped my last segment, I had one of those coughing fits where I couldn't bring up the edema fluid. Sometimes that will take 20 to 30 minutes. I'm exhausted. But I had a little fit, recovering. And as soon as I did, my dog, I noticed, stopped playing and was standing right next to me and staring at me and looking right into my eyes with a concerned look on his face. His his eyebrow, I should say, was furrowed, and he looked concerned. And then I moved to a bigger chair so he could console me, and he quickly got super excited and jumped on me and tenderly put his paw on my leg and gave me kisses to try to console me from coughing. So, the edema and the coughing, that's another important thing that I forgot to mention. And as a side note, my dog is a big part of what does help me get through all that. Obviously, as I just described, if I have any issues, if I'm hurting, if I've had major issues in the past, he has come to my aid quite a bit. He comforts me, puts his paw gingerly on me to comfort me. If I'm going through a lot of pain and suffering, he'll whimper because he's frustrated. He's feeling terrible that I feel terrible. He's so empathetic. And he's actually a certified ESA. I know that's an emotional support animal. I know that's been abused by a lot of people. They like say my pet frog is my ESA or my tarantula is my ESA. Whatever, stupid crap like that. But he really is a fully licensed ESA. He's good at it. He is a real emotional support animal. He does come to me and comfort me when I'm having issues. He actually reminds me when it's time to take my medications. He does that. If I drop a pill, he'll look for it for me and point it out to me. He'll tell me things are going on that I don't notice, like my hearing's a little off. There's nothing to do at all with any of this, I don't think, but my hearing's a little off. That's from flying with a sinus infection years ago. So I have um, eustachian tube issues. I have eustachian dysfunction in both my ears because, oh gosh, maybe 20 years ago I flew with a really bad sinus infection. I had to go to something for work, and I went up in the plane with that really bad sinus infection, and it did damage to my eustachian tubes for the rest of my life. Anyway, so that's encumbered some of my hearing. And so he'll hear things that I don't hear, like someone at the door, all kinds of stuff. So that's the one good thing. And I did adopt him once I was already in hospice because my previous dog passed away. He was my companion for 16 years. Most of my adult life, 3/4 of my adult life, I was with this dog. I got him when he was just a few months old puppy. And he passed away at 16, about 7.5 years ago. And so I mourned that for 4 or 5 months, and then I adopted again, and that's my current dog, and he's the ESA, and he's wonderful. So you never know what might come around the corner. What good things might come around the corner. So that's one of the reasons why I keep going. The finality of death is just so severe. Forever is just so severe. I'm afraid I'm going to miss something. I mean, just with some of the political situations in the United States and around the world, I think it's hilarious, and I don't want to miss it. As me being blunt, I just think it's fun and funny. It's a clown world, and I'm enjoying watching it. So I don't want to miss that. Uh, but anyway, that's the one part I left out, or a couple parts I left out, at least from the physical standpoint of what it's been like to slowly die. So I hope this reprisal of that topic helps to answer some of that question. So, with that note, I'm going to do a quick wrap up on this podcast. I'm sorry it's not longer and on a deeper topic. It's just because I'm tired. As I just said, I did have a coughing fit and I really want to go lay down right now. So that's what I'm going to do. And you can't stop me. And thank you for listening in. I'll try to be more on cue with keeping up usual updates so I don't disappear for a month. And thank you sincerely for giving me a place to have my voice and share my experience. That's the best thing you can do to support me through this mess. But for now, off, if you can say it.